Hello everyone and welcome to a slightly more different edition of the podcast. This is episode 12, which means that we've officially been doing this for a year, and what better way to do the 1 year technically special of the podcast than by kind of deep diving back into where it all began. It started off as me doing like the creators commentary for Kingdom of Glory, and now we're here with the behind the scenes of the Joker's Wild Tag Team Tournament. I'm recording this just for complete transparency. I'm recording this on the 13th of August, so literally the day of the finals of the first round. So you guys are going to be seeing who the Joker is today when I'm recording this. I do not know what the reaction is. I feel like I know the reaction, but I'm not sure what it's gonna be. I feel like some people might be a bit annoyed, but that's kind of what I want for that. So we'll see. So we'll just talk about the behind the scenes of the Joker's Wild. You're really not going to be seeing the screen for a lot, just because I do have a Excel spreadsheet that I planned everything on that you will be seeing in a second. When we get round to that. But first things first, I want to kind of talk about why I decided to bring it back when I did. It's the 5-year anniversary. It was meant to be announced way earlier than it was, but I decided to change up the content style and format, so everything kind of got pushed back because I was creating so much content. And this tournament was meant to be done in July, and it's going to be done in mid-August. So that's it's a lot of fun and something that, it just happens. It just happens. So, I decided to bring it back because I wanted a fun way to crown #1 contenders for Invictus. I wanted a fun way to bring in Derek Colin, fun little factoid. I've had him penciled in for stuff for like a year, and because it's taken like 6 months to get from Kingdom of Glory to Fight Forever, it's taken so long to get here that now that it's here, I was like, okay, we need to find a way of getting Derek onto the CEW screens. And I was like, you know what? Joker's Wild's the perfect way. One way or the other, he's going to be on the screens. Before we get onto the sheet, I do want to answer some frequently asked questions about this entire series, the Joker's Wild. Was it random? Absolutely. I'm not even joking. People are gonna dispute that because of the fact that Justin and Derek were a team. I'm not even kidding. Once you see the spreadsheet, it will make sense that it was not planned. I will literally, I put all the names I drafted up onto a wheel and spun the wheel, and that's what happened. Like, the teams that were picked were completely random. I'm not even joking. And I will, I'm just gonna say it now. I did not have any say in it. The stars aligned when Justin and Derek got paired together. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. So that's like the first big question. The second question was, well, how did you plan this? Because obviously I'm a very big storyline guy. So like, how do I just let the AI or let random chance decide a tournament? And that's where I think we go into the spreadsheet. So let me just quickly actually go into this section here. I hope you guys can see like my cursor and whatnot, but basically, as you can see on the left side of the screen, hopefully I don't have to do any extra editing and like hone in on stuff, but here is my list of 16 wrestlers. They're all color-coded now because I needed a way of figuring out who was selected and who wasn't. Obviously, I had the wheel individually remove people, but I just thought it looked nice once you had this all kind of like that. And as you can see there, we had the bracket, but we will get onto that in a second. So for now, in fact, let me just zoom in a bit so we can focus more on this section here. So basically, what I tried to do was I tried to select people who are either not doing a lot, could be interesting to pair with each other, maybe some teams, etc. So, for example, we had Billy and Conroy, we have Derek and Justin, you know, who are both a part of Empire. We have dudes like Zorox, who isn't doing a lot at the moment, but something like this is fun for him. You have guys like Darren Joseph, who, you know, fantastic tag team guy, and if I'm right, I think was the finalist of the was it 2018? Was it the 2018? Was it 2018 Joker's Wild? I think it was. I think he was a finalist of the last one alongside his former tag partner at the time, Jared Dexter. So I was like, I need to incorporate him. He's kind of the embodiment of the Joker's Wild to me. You have guys like Kenichi, who I was going to always have be the all-day champion going into this. Ollie Byrne, a part of that too. Kanito just makes sense. You got guys like Carter, who could be fun. Kyle, Doran, these guys, you know, people who can tell a good story with, you know, with random chance. And then once I had my 16, what I decided to do was I just decided I'm going to go ahead and kind of link them all together. So you got guys like Kinito, for example. I was like, who could he pair with that could be interesting? Well, you got ones like Caleb Clark, who, you know, could probably come together due to a mutual hatred of Bradley British and Ryan Shamrock. You have guys like Carter Jacks, who can't stand Kinito. His name's like Joshua Walker. You know, if he had paired with someone like Adam Adams, I feel like that would have been an interesting team. Like Kinito and Justin, Kinito and Derek. Like, a lot of the heels with Kinito would have been cool. Like, Kinito and Zunna pairing with any of these guys would have been really, really good. So, adding a character like Billy Zunna, just worked perfectly. And then you have guys like Kyle Young, for example, who I was like, you know, there's like a couple faces I could see him really working with, you know, like a Darren Joseph, a Joshua Walker, for example. You know, a team that could actually really mesh well together and, you know, could make it far in the tournament. He ended up getting paired with Doran Lowe, which is perfect for some future plans that, I think by the time that this comes out, you'll have already started to see, but I won't specify what those are until, you know, I don't know when this is going to come out, so I can't really say at the moment. So yeah, there was a lot of, like, planning. Like, I really wanted Zunna and Conroy to pair with each other, but Conroy and Darren working together is fine, because they both have ties to Billy Zunna, both on, you know, Conroy and CEW, and Darren Joseph on REW. You know, it was just about, like, thinking, well, Kenichi could pair well with, like, Ollie Byrne, all-day title guy, Zunna, all-day title guy, maybe even, you know, like a Caleb Clark, and they could form, like, a really mean tag team, same as, like, someone like Kinito. Or if you paired, like, Kenichi with, like, Derek or Justin, again, you have that kind of factor. Or you could pair him with, like, a higher-up face, and then you have, like, the can they coexist dynamic, and I apologize if you can hear my mouse clicking. It's you're gonna have to deal with it for this podcast. So then came the wheel. Now, I don't have the wheel anymore, because obviously, as it selected teams, it wiped them off the face of the planet. But this was, in fact, the order, if I'm right, that the teams were selected. It's definitely not an alphabetical, so I'm going to assume that this was the order. So Zunna and Adams got paired together first, and immediately at that point, I was like, okay, this is fantastic. This is already going perfectly. Then you got a team like Justin Juice Baton and Caleb Clark. Now, I'm just gonna be completely brutally honest. I needed teams to go out in the first round, and I was like, you know what, that's fine. Kinito and Carter makes sense from a storyline perspective. Zorox and Walker was a team I was very, very excited about, and that's why I was like, okay, they're at least making it to semi-finals, but we will talk, like I said, we'll talk about that in a second. Kyle and Doran I already mentioned. Kenichi and Ollie just made sense, you know, all-day title challenger, all-day champion. Again, Justin Noble and the Joker. People are not going to believe that they got paired together, but I promise you, it was random. I'm just making that clear. It was random, alright? And then Darren Joseph and Conroy Sinclair, you know, very, very fun team. And once I had all of that, then we move on to the bracketing. Now, this was the tricky bit, because there are a lot of teams that I wanted to have go to the semi-finals, but I had to think from a storyline perspective what was going to work best. So, round one, this is when I started properly planning stuff. Nothing was random after this. So, what I needed to do was I needed to think about the teams that I really, really thought would do well. So, immediately, I was like, Justin Noble, Derek Colin, it makes sense that they're going to go far. And I was like, I basically worked backwards. So, this was technically the first match I came up with, was the finals. I was like, who is going to the finals at least? I mean, I also thought about who was going to win as soon as I came up with the teams. As soon as this was the thing, I knew that these were the winners. It just makes too much sense to not have Derek and Justin win. And then I worked backwards. I was like, well, I really like the team with Darren and Conroy. And now that you guys have seen some of the storyline things, it makes sense to have them get all the way to the finals and then ultimately lose. Then I was like, well, who are they going to fight? And then who are Derek and Justin going to fight? And I was like, well, out of the teams left, the two teams I liked the most in terms of like who I think could actually work well and get to the semi-finals, Zorox and Walker, Kyle and Doran. Both teams, however, had a little bit of miscommunication in the first round. Or at least that's how I kind of wanted to bill it. I don't know if I was able to do that, but either way, you know, stuff happened. Like, Zorox and Walker, definitely. I think you'll see that in the first round, if I remember correctly. Kyle and Doran didn't really have that much miscommunication, but you could kind of tell that Doran wanted to be the guy in that team, and Kyle, having a bit more experience, was wanting to lead by example with Doran Lowe. And that's where the disconnect in their group kind of began. So, once I had that, I was like, alright, now it's time to, unfortunately, have the first round guys. I mean, as much as I love Zunna, as much as I love Adam Adams, fantastic heel he gets, arguably the most amount of heat out of anyone in CEW. So, yeah, then I was like, well, who would be fun first round matchups? And I was like, Juice and Caleb. It didn't really matter who they went up against. I was like, I just can't have them fight these guys. Because I didn't really want free heel, like, obviously I had Kanishi and Ollie, but that makes more sense in terms of once we get there. I'll explain that. I didn't want Juice and Caleb to go up against a heel team, because I wanted that to be the story of Caleb will try and win by any means, and Juice is there to try and win and help out a guy who is kind of putting their trust in him. Ultimately didn't work, and Darren and Conroy advanced. Zunna and Adams, I absolutely love them, but Zunna, unless he was paired with Conroy, was always going to probably go out in the first round. Unless, of course, who could I have paired him with? Like, you know, well, not who I could have paired him with, but like, who would he have been paired with that I could have seen go through? Maybe him and Kyle. Maybe him and Doran. Maybe him and Walker. Him and Conroy, obviously. Him and Darren. So there was a few people that could have, quote-unquote, carried Zunna. I don't know if Adam Adams would have made it further. I think the only way that would have worked would have been if he was working with Caleb. That would have been the only thing. Kanito and Carter, as soon as they got picked, I was like, okay, these guys are going out first round. It just makes sense. They don't like each other. They tried their damnedest to be a team, but it just didn't work. And Kanishi and Ollie, to help tell the story of the all-day title, had to go out first round. So, I think that's really in terms of the structure of the bracketing and how I came about the teams. I guess I could kind of give a little bit of insight as to, like, how did I decide what teams would come out of entrances, like, tag entrances. And it was just about, like, who I think would have actually have agreed to be, like, a proper unit. And there was only, like, a couple. Obviously, Empire / Pain Foundation in Derek and Justin makes sense. Zorox and Walker, I feel like, would because Walker was happy to be working with Zorox, and Zorox is a party guy. He's down for theatrics. He loves a good tag entrance. And then Darren and Conroy is Darren and Conroy. I needed to give them a tag entrance. So I think, in reality, I think really that's really it for the behind the scenes. If you guys have any more sort of like questions about the behind the scenes of the Joker's Wild Tag Tournament, just leave them in the comments below. Just let me know if you have any more questions. I will try and answer them as best as physically possible. Bear in mind, I'm recording this like at least 2 to 3 weeks earlier than I really need to, but again, I'm recording this now because we're halfway through the tournament. I've been asked a lot of questions, so I thought, why not make it a podcast so that then everyone can kind of get these answers, as opposed to just me DMing people and whatnot, or just answering it on the Discord. So yeah, that was the CEW podcast. I've been Byron. This has been, like I said, the CEW podcast. I did that twice, and I will see you all next time.